Good day to you, my grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's mathematical literacy lesson. My name is Bernard Donko. This lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. So today we want to look at revising. We are finally here. It's almost time for us to write our exams, and therefore I want to take you through all the various topics that we've studied so far, some few questions, some tips here and there that will get you ready for the paper one, so that at the end we are going to pass and pass very well. Well, at the end of the lesson, the hope is that you'll be able to answer questions based on finance, data handling, and probability, because those are the topics that we are dealing with in paper one. And for you to understand and work effectively on the topics for finance and data handling, then your ability to work with budget, interest, currency conversions, and so on, inflation, taxation, they are going to be very, very important. So let's get going. Now I have got a little bit of a baseline activity that I want us to start with so that we can get our minds ready going. It says in column A, we have got words or terms that we use in Mathlet. And then on column B, we have got the explanation. So what I want you to do now, please help me. Let's try to find the correct answers to each term so that we can continue from there. I'm just giving you like 2 minutes. This should not take you very long because remember, we are just revising now. So after 2 minutes, we come back and discuss together. All right, welcome learners. So the first one says break-even point. When we say break-even point, you can look through and you realize that break-even point is E, the point where the total cost of a business is equal to the total sales. So one is E. Mean, we are talking of the sum. That's D, so you are adding everything. Number 3, variable expense. Variable, it changes. So we are looking for expenses that change. It means we are looking at what? Expenses that change over time or from week or month to the next. Then we are going to tariff. When you say tariff, what is it? We are talking of the rate B charged for a service rendered. So these ones, we are doing them because we know in our examinations, they usually ask you to explain or define some of them. Let's talk of inflation then. When we talk of inflation, what is it? Inflation is an increase in the price of a basket of goods or services over time. That's what you call inflation. And then the last one is salary. So salary is the amount of money paid for a work that you do, and usually it is on a monthly basis. The moment the money is going to week or 2 weeks or fortnightly basis, we are talking of as what? A wage. So I have given you a few possible exam questions where I expect that you will attempt them and then you will be able to see how the questions are. Let's look at this one. The question says, study the invoice alongside and use it to answer the questions that follow. So the first one, they are saying, what does the acronym VAT stand for? The moment you say it, I want you to write the answer. You pause the video, you write the answer quickly so that we will discuss together as quickly as possible. The second one, it says determine the value of A in the invoice, meaning there is a value here. What is the value? So for you to answer such questions, you can go to the information that is given to you there. You realize that they're saying the unit price is this much, 4,950 per night. Now, if you go a little bit to your side, you will see that they want to spend a time of 7 nights there. So what are you going to do with the price per night and the number of nights? You are going to multiply them. Then let's get to the next one. 1.3, it says, write down the VAT rate. Write down the VAT rate in the invoice above. Can we pause learners quickly? I will come back quickly. So I was saying, the next question says, write down the VAT rate in the invoice above. VAT rate. So they are not saying calculate. Okay, when they say calculate, it means you have to put values together and try to get the answer. This one they are saying, write down the VAT rate. What is the rate which is used to calculate VAT? So you go into the information given to you there, you will see VAT is calculated at 15%. What about the next one? Now look at it. It says calculate. Let me go back to the first one. You see, the first one says write down. So write down, we are saying the answer is there. Just look for it and write down what the VAT rate. So how do you know it's the VAT rate? They're asking what is the percentage which we use to calculate VAT. You just look at that and then you write. But then this one says you must calculate it. So calculate it means that you have to know what is the subtotal, how much is everything, so that you can be able to work out the VAT that you need to add on top. Now, the next one says, write as a simplified ratio the price of conference setup and refreshment. So, where is conference setup and refreshment? This one. To the subtotal. So, this is the subtotal. Okay, meaning we are looking for this value to that one. So then, the moment they say write as a simplified ratio, the first thing that I want you to do is write the values down. What was the first value that was mentioned? Conference, setup, and refreshment. So you come and write 1045. Then when they say 2, you put your 2 dots there. What is the next value that was mentioned? They said subtotal. So what's our subtotal value? 36445. Are you there with me? So even if there are 3 marks or 2 marks, the first point is to be able to write the values in the correct order. How do you write in the correct order? You write the one that was mentioned first. In our case here, they mentioned conference, setup, and refreshment before subtotal. So I'm asking you, do not swap them around, whether they are big or small. That is not the point. Write them in the correct order so that you will get your marks for writing the correct values in the correct order. Then, because it's a simplified ratio, you can look at the last figures. Do you see? Both of the values are ending with a 5. So actually, you can divide both sides by that value. If they were not ending with a 5, we'll use another approach. Like even here, can you see they both end with 45 or 45? We can still use 45, but we are looking at, first start with the last number. You will see the last number ends with a 5 because both of them end with a 5. We can actually divide by 5 to get our answer. So now let's go to the next one. Now we are refilling the answers. The first one, they were asking us to write the full acronym for VAT, which is what? Value added tax. The next one, they wanted us to calculate or determine the value of A. So like I was saying we are spending 7 nights there. Every night is 4,950. So we just multiply them. Or because they have given us the subtotal, what we can do is to subtract all the remaining other values. Whatever is left is the value of A. The next one will be determine the value of A, which we've done. It says write down the VAT rate. So we realize that the VAT rate is what? 15%. What's our VAT rate? It is 15%. Now, they're asking us to calculate the VAT amount due on this invoice. If the total is 36,445, we know the VAT rate is what? 15%. So 15% of 36,445. So you will be saying 15 over 100 times 36,445. You can start with the 15%, or in this case, what I've shown you on the screen. It doesn't matter. It will not change the answer. So be prepared to know that you are going to answer such questions. Then, as a simplified ratio, you see here, as I was saying. So how do we get these values? We divide both sides by 5. That's how you get this. On your left side, 209. On your other side, 7,289. Those are some few questions on financial documents. So now let's talk of income, expenditure, profit or loss. What we are doing is to go topic by topic for the finance so that we know every section is covered. That way you are ready for the examination. For you to do well in the financial documents as well as income expenditure statements, here you have to be able to classify items as income or expenditure, as it profit or not. You'll be able to show how the total income was calculated. Then you should also remember that whenever we talk of expenditure, it is the money being spent or the money going out of the business or the household. Okay, and then you should know that there are 3 types of expenses. We have the fixed expense, variable expense, and occasional or unforeseen expenses. Do not forget that. We will have some few questions on them. Let's look at budget versus income and expenditure statement. Whenever you hear budget, it's a plan of how you want to spend the money that you are getting. You are having a budget to say, I know I'm going to get this much, and this is how I want to spend it. Then it gets to a point where you actually spend the item. Once you spend it, that's what we call income and expenditure statement. So you can have your budget, good, but how do you want to spend it? You spend it according to your plan. So if your budget is, let's say, 20,000, the 20,000 you want to spend it on various items. Am I correct? But then when it comes to you actually spending, let's say you budgeted 2,000 for item A. Maybe the price has come down, you only spend 1,500. The moment it happens like that, once you spend it, we call it what? Income and expenditure statement. So let's look at an example here. You see that on the left side, we have our salary is going to be 16,000. We can get a commission of 10,000. When you hear commission, we are talking of being able to sell an item to be paid part of the item. Like for example, somebody is selling, let's say laptops. So every laptop, let's say, is 5,000, but every time you manage to sell the laptop for 5,000, the company that you are selling for gives you maybe 500 rand back. So your commission is what? 500. And the laptop is what? 5,000. So the more laptops you sell, the more commission you get. Does it make sense to you? So you sell the item, then they pay you back. If you don't sell the item, you don't get anything back. So on the left side, we have our items that we are budgeting for, like rent, insurance, medical aid, and so on. Then the income and expenditure statement is actually how much did we spend on the various items. If you look, we said our commission was 10,000, but then in reality, we only got a commission of 8,500. So you can have the budget, but the income and expenditure statement will tell us exactly how much you got or how you spent the money. Let's look at some few example possible questions. The table below shows a budget for a typical South African household. Number 1.1, calculate the percentage of the total budget spent on food. So look at the point here. As you read, you will be getting your answers. Look at the first one. We want percentage. So make a line like this and put a times, and then write here 100. So there's going to be something up here and something down there. The one that goes up is the first item that they mentioned. So in our work it says calculate the percentage of the total budget spent on food. So they want us to put the value for food here. How much did we spend for food? We spent 2,327 rand and 17 cents. So it's going to be here 2,327.17. 2,327.17, and then the total. So definitely the total has to come down as the denominator. We'll put the total here. What's our total? Here is our total. So as you read, you will be getting the answers. I want you to pay attention, go slowly, try to understand what you are reading. It's better to have maybe 2-3 pages that you have managed to answer it completely than to rush through, but then you are not getting any mark. We want you to pass. We want you to do very well. So never forget that. Let's look at 1.2. The transport costs for transport to work and transport to school are in a ratio 28:15. Calculate the value of A, which is the cost of transport to work. So they have given us transport cost for transport to work. This is transport to work. And then transport to school. Are you following my learners? So we have got these two values. They are saying they are in a ratio of 28:15. How does that work? How do we find the value of A? So it means they are saying A represents 28 and then B represents 15. So we must find A. Let's work it out and then we come back. So now let's go to the next one then. Remember, the question said we should calculate the percentage of food items spent on food here, 2,327, and then this is our total. because they say percentage, always multiply by 100, not 100%. The percent is the unit. That's why you see it here. So you don't say times 100%. That will end up giving you like over 100. Then you get a very small answer. So our answer is 30,42. If the examiner doesn't say anything, leave your answer to 1 decimal place or 2 decimal places. Are we together? In finance, if they don't say round it to this value, or rather leave it to 1 or 2 decimal places, you are much safer that way. So let's look at 1.2. It says we should write the value of A. So this is how we do it. Now, our total is 7,649,89. So what do? We subtract all the remaining values, meaning we are left with what? 1,720. For us to find the correct values, we know one of the values represents 28, the other represents 15. So the first thing you do is try to find the total. Add the values which are in ratio. The set is 28 is to 15. So we add them, it means our total is what? 4,043. So for us to get the first one, which is 28, we'll take 28, we divide it by the total, which is what? 43. Then we times it by the money which is supposed to be shared between transport to work and transport to school. So in the end, the first one, which is transport to work, is going to be 1,120. That is how you do answer those questions. Okay, definitely you are going to find questions on ratios, and your job is to try and answer it to the best of your ability. That's why we are revising now, so that you do not forget. Let's look at profit and loss then. Profit is when your income is bigger than your expenses. When you get a loss, it means that your expense is bigger than your income. But then you get to a point where your profit, your income, and your expense are the same. That point, we call it what? Break-even point. So if you started with 1,000 rand, but then you managed to sell items to a value of 1,000 rand, you have not yet made any profit. You've just managed to recoup. You have managed to get back the money which you spent for the project. So you have broken even, and therefore you need to sell more in order to start making a profit. Then we have something called percentage profit. So whenever we talk of percentage profit, we are trying to work out how much is our profit in terms of the items that we've sold. So we use a formula. So whenever you see percentage profit and they say profit over cost price, I want you to remember this. Whenever you see this, it's the same as new minus old divided by old times 100. Okay, so you look at your new amount minus old amount. Whenever we talk of the new amount, like in this example, we are talking of your income and then minus your cost of sales or your expenses. All right, so they are not going to spell everything out for you, but let's look at that in terms of exam questions. A shop owner bought 20 laptops at 5,000 rand each. She sells 10 laptops at 6,000 each. How many laptops did they buy? 20. They managed to sell 10 at a price of what? 6,000 rand each. Then she offers 10% discount on the remaining 10. So let's read again. How many laptops? 20. How many were sold at 6,000? 10 of them. The other 10, did they sell it at 6,000? No. They sold it at a discounted price of 10%. So the first one says we must calculate what? The total profit made by the shop owner. Then they gave us a formula to say, use this formula. Profit is selling price minus cost price. Profit is also income minus expenses. How do we do this? We will just work around it now. You see. Number 2 or 1.2, calculate the percentage profit. So you see here, then they give us the formula. Let's go back. Calculate the percentage profit of the 20 laptops to the total profit received. So let's look at the first one. They wanted us to calculate the total profit. How many laptops there? We had 20. Are we good? So from the 20, we bought them at 5,000 rand each. So 5,000 times 20 to give us what? 100,000. That's how much we spent to buy them. Then we went and sold 10 of the laptops for how much? 6,000 rand each. So it means for the 10, we managed to get money of 6,000. Now we talk of the discount. Remember, Here, they are giving a discount of how much? 10%. So what do? We work out the 10%, meaning we are going to get a discount of what? 6,000. So 60,000 minus the 6,000. It means that the remaining 10, we are no longer getting 60,000. We are only going to get 54,000. Are we together? The first 10, no problem, we got our 60,000. But the second 10, because we are selling 6,000, but then we gave a discount of 10%, it means we are only going to get 54,000. So let's talk of our income then. Our income will then become the 60,000 for the first 10 and the 54,000 for the other 10, which we sold at a discount. It means our total income will be 114,000. So where is our profit then? Remember, we spent 100,000 to buy them, and then we managed to get 114,000. Definitely our income is bigger than our expenses, so we are going to get a profit. So it will be 114,000 minus 100,000. That will give us 14,000 rand profit. I hope you did get that. Whenever I'm going through like this and you like to pause, you pause, go over it, check how I'm responding to the questions. Then you apply the same idea in the examination. So now we are looking for percentage profit. Remember, they gave us the formula, what? Profit divided by cost price. What's our profit? 14,000. What's our cost price for buying all the laptops? 100,000. We multiply by 100. So our percentage profit is what? 14%. Now let's look at another aspect of the exam. We are talking of cost price and selling price, as well as break-even analysis. So like I've been saying, when we talk of break-even point, we are talking of where the income is equal to the expenditure or the expenses. So when the graph is drawn, where the two lines cross, where the two lines intersect, is what we call our break-even point. Meaning on the left side of the dot or of the break-even point, we get a loss, meaning we are not making a profit. But if we manage to go onto the right side, then we are going to make a profit for that. So this is an idea for you to see how our graph looks like. If they give us the graph and there's no names or no labels, how do we know which one is profit or loss? Go back and look at the graph. That's from the 0 point. That's our income. Because we are talking of, if you don't sell anything, you don't get anything. So always try and see if you can identify the income graph first. Okay, let's look at the exam possible question here. The answer sheet alongside displays the graphs for 3 contract options to rent out a photocopying machines. Write down the number of copies at the point where contract 1 and 3 cost the same. So there is a key here. Tells us which line is for contract 1. The dotted one in the middle, this one, is contract 2. And then the thick line is contract 3. So it means this is contract 1. So they're saying that contract 1 and 3, meaning this one and that one, where would they get the values to be the same? Then you go interpret it. Look at the second one. It says point B to C represents a fixed cost. From point B to C, they represent what? A fixed cost. Explain the term fixed cost. What will you write? So you have to remember these things that they will be asking you that. Let's look at the third question. It says, identify the contract which will be the cheapest option if we are making what? 3,500 copies. So you look for 3,000. Can you see we have small lines in between? How many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it means that each line is about 200, like 3,200, 3,004, 3,006, 3,008, 4,000. It's about 200. But they're saying we are making 3,500 copies, so somewhere here, which line or which contract will be the cheapest? In this case, you move up, the first line that you touch is the cheapest. So we see we have 1, 2, 3 lines. Move up and look for the first line that you are touching. Which one? The thick one. What is the name of the thick one? Is contract 3. So if you are making about 3,500, the cheapest contract is contract number 3. Then from there, they will give you the values, ask you to draw your own graph. Are we together? So always remember that you are going to be given the graph paper, just like your booklet for the prelim. You will see that everything is there. Yours is to draw from that graph paper. I encourage you rather use a pencil first. Have your pencil sharpened nicely, draw it so that even if you make a mistake, you can easily wrap it. Don't use a pen right from the beginning, because when you make a mistake, it is very difficult for you to correct them, because now you are going to be stressed for nothing. All right, so let's move on then. We start with the first one. Where would they cost the same? At a point of 1,100. Good. 2.2, they said we should explain the term what? Fixed cost. So whenever you hear fixed cost, we are talking of expenses that do not change with the level of production of copies. Meaning, let's say for rent is an example of fixed cost, because whether you stay there or not, you have to pay for that amount. Let's look at the next one then. Then we're having the point where it's going to be the cheapest. Like I said, you look from the value which was given up until the first line that you touch, then that becomes the cheapest one. Don't ever forget that. Now we are supposed to say determine a formula that can be used to calculate the total cost for contract 2 in the form this. So for you to do that, first you must go look for the fixed cost. The fixed cost are those values that are on your left in terms of the monthly cost. So here we have 625. Then 25 cents is how much they charge per copy. Okay, above they gave us extra of 600. Remember I told you that each line here represents 200. So 200, 400, 600. So they charge us 25 cents per copy. How do they get those values? I will try and explain to you in other videos, because this one is for just the revision. So it will take quite a bit of time for us to understand that portion. So they charge us 25 cents times the number of copies above 600. And if you're able to write this formula, then you are given like 2 marks or 3 marks, or sometimes maybe even more than that. Remember, they did ask you to draw your own graph. So for you to draw your own graph, then it's going to be the values that has been given to you. You plot it and then you get your full marks. How about the next topic then? Let's now look at our interest, banking, and loans. Interest, banking, and loans. So some of the questions they will be asking us to do or ask us to answer is to define interest and interest rate. You should know the difference between the two. So whenever you hear interest, it is that extra money which we pay for borrowing somebody's money, the extra money. I want you to use the word extra. Whenever you hear interest, if they say explain the term interest, rather say it is the extra money that is paid for a loan, or the extra money that is received on top of an investment. Then you get your full marks for that. Interest rate is the percentage that we use to calculate the extra money. Okay, so interest is the extra money we need to pay, but how do we know how much you must bring? So we use what we call the interest rate. So the percentage which is used to calculate the interest is what we call the interest rate. Then you should know the difference between simple and compound interest, because definitely you'll be asked questions on that. Let's look at this one. Stanton invested 1,250,000 at a bank where it will earn an interest rate of 6% compounded annually for 2.25 years. Annually means the whole year. We get the interest once. That's what called annually. Determine through calculations whether this money will generate an interest of more than 180,000 by the end of the investment period. So one thing that you need to take note of is here. This 2.25 year, a quarter year is like you divide a year into 4, okay? But then how many months are there in a quarter year? It is what? 3 months, because you have 3, that's 1, 6, that's 2, 9, that's 3, and then 12. So a quarter, don't just go and use a quarter, but rather say 2 years, 3 months. So you must work for year 1. So year 1 is going to be 1,250,000. Then you multiply it by what? 6/100. So you press, let us be pressing quickly, 1,250,000 times 6 over 100, and that will give us 75,000. So what do we do with the 75,000? Because it's a compound interest, we must add. Okay, so then you must say plus 1,250,000. So what are we going to get? 1,250,000. That will give us 1,325,000. So we are going to get 1,325,000. We are done with year 1. We must do the same for year 2. So for year 2, we are going to say 1,325,000 times 6 over 100. So you'll be saying the money which is already on your calculator, just say times 6 over 100, and that will give you 79,500. It means the interest we are getting here is what? 79,500. What do we do with this money? Let's add it to the money which is already in the account. So it is going to be plus 1,325,000. Let's go. So say plus 1,325,000. Now we are going to have 1,404,500. So now we are going to have 1,404,500. That's how much money we have after 2 years. So let's see, how do we work out the quarter? So then, remember I told you that a quarter year is 3 months. Okay, so you go to your year number 3. Then you will be saying 1,404,500. Yes, so now we are starting with the year 3. So the year 3, we are taking the money which is already there in our investment, 1,404,500. Then you times it also by 6 over 100. That was if you were leaving the money there for the 3rd year, the whole year. But remember, we are only living for a quarter year, okay? So you come and work out 3 out of 12 months. So a quarter, like I said, a quarter of a year is what? 3 months. So we are only living it in year 3 for only 3 months out of the 12 months. So then let us work it out. So we are going to say 1,404,500 times 6 over 100 times 3 out of 12, and that will give us 21,067 rand. Can you see this one is a bit less and 50 cents? Why is it less? Because we left it for only how much? 3 months. So what do we do now? We must then add this money to the 1,404,500. So let's add it plus 1,404,500, and that will give us in total 1,425,567 and 50 cents. Good, we have done something, but we have not finished answering the question. The examiner says, let's check if the interest is going to reach how much? 180,000. So what you do now, you take that 1,425,567 and 50 cents, you minus it from the 1,250,000 which you started with. Don't forget. So let's say the money we have minus 1,250,000, and it means that our interest which you got is 175,567. So we are going to get interest of 175,567.50 cents. Now the question is this money equal to 180? Did it reach 180,000? No. So you'll be saying that the interest did not reach 180,000. This is not where you say the question is wrong or is incorrect. They just said find out whether the interest you will get will be equal to 180,000. And after our calculations, we realized that it will not reach 180,000. So you said no, the interest generated will not be equal to 180,000. Then you are done for that. Let's talk of inflation. How do you talk of inflation here as well as exchange rate? They will be asking you to explain or define the term inflation or define the term exchange rate. And then you should know that for inflation and exchange rate, we are going to deal with percentages here. So let's look at the first question that we are dealing with. The exchange rate of South African rand to British pound was 21 rand 50 to £1, meaning when somebody brings £1 from the UK, the person will get 21 rand 50 here. What does that tell you? It means that the South African rand is weaker and the British pound is stronger. Okay, and that was on the 3rd of June 2025. So now we're asking the first question: how many rands would you get if you have 65 rand 50, 65 pounds 50? So it means that you must work it out. So let's go back. I want to show you the simplest way that you must work with this one out. You see in the question there's 65 pounds 50. Okay, so right from the question, divided by the same currency, which is pound. Are you with me? Then go to the exchange rate and write the same value, which is pound, multiply by whatever value is left there. There must be 3 of them. So you start with the value which you have in your question, which is the 65 pound 50, divide by the same currency. Why? That way you can be able to cancel out that unit, meaning that the money is going to be changed to the other currency, in this case the rand. So we are going to multiply by R21.50. Then you press 65 pounds 50 times 21.50. Whatever answer you get, then you write. That is it. So don't sit and stress and think too much. Like this one. Do you see now our currency is R? So it means we must divide with R here from the exchange rate. Which of the two values has got R? The 21.50. So you write here 21.50. Then you times it by the other currency, which is the pound 1. Immediately you cancel out those two values which are divided. Press, so it's going to be 1,500 divided by 21 pound 50. You don't have to press times 1 because you're going to get the same value at the end. Then you write your answer. That is how you answer the questions. How about question 1.2.1? It says use the exchange rate table to answer the questions that follow. So we have been given a nice information that has got various currencies and so on. So if you check, it says convert the exchange rate to the following: 1 rand to euro. We know the euro, 1 euro gives us 1917. How do we then convert it to rand in terms of 1 rand? And then naira to rand. I hope you can try that and see how it goes. Okay, then the second one, it says if a hotel booking costs 125 pounds per night and Brownway stays there for 4 nights, calculate how much it will cost her in rand. So the money is in pounds and they want the money to become in rand. So let's look at the solutions. We wanted how many rands are there in terms of pounds. So you see 1 pound gives us 21 rand 50. So 65 pounds will be 65 divided by 1 times 21 rand 50. Like I explained to you already, it means that the money will be 1,408 rand and 25 cents. Okay. Then let's look at number 1.2.2. It says, how many pounds could you get from 1,500? How should we do this one? We know that 1 pound is the same as 21 rand 50. So now that we have 1,500, can you see how I've written them? They are on both sides. So we divide by the same currency. We are dividing by the same currency. Now let's get to the next one then. I wanted you to work out 1 rand is to euro. So we know 1 euro is 1917. So 1 rand will be how many euros? What do? You divide 1 by the 1917. Just simple like that, so that we get 0.0 something. The reason because the euro is bigger. So when you have only 1 rand, you are going to get very, very less in terms of the euro. All right. Then the other question was asking that if the person stays at a place where it costs 125 pounds for 4 nights, how much would that money be in terms of rand? So what you needed to do is to first check. We have finished with the other currency, sorry. So now we are looking at 125 pounds. So the first thing you have to do is to multiply the number of nights by how much it is costing per night. Once you have the money, then you go and use the conversion factor. We know 1 pound is equal to 21 rand 50. So you times your money by 21 rand 50. Remember, we are revising. I'm just reminding you of various topics that you're going to find. So let's look at inflation. We've talked of exchange rate. Inflation is the increase in the price of a typical basket of goods and services over a period of time. So we calculate inflation using what you call inflation rate. Like I said to you before, percentage profit. inflation rate, we use the same idea. So it's going to be new minus old divided by old times 100. So now we have a liter of milk which currently costs 9 rand and 11 cents. The expected inflation for 2025 will be 6.5%. So the question is, how much will the price of milk cost in 2025? Number 2, in 2024, the price of a shoe cost 650 rand 95 cents. If inflation is supposed to be 6.4%, how much was the price in 2023? So basically, currently we are paying 650 and 95 cents because of inflation of 6.4%. So what was the price before? That is the question that the examiner is asking you. So let's look at the solutions then. The liter of milk was costing 9.11 cents. So it means that if we add the inflation rate, it's just like the way you calculate VAT. Remember, VAT is 15%. But because we are talking of inflation, we are not using 15%. We are using any other percentage that the examiner gives to us. So you work out that percentage, and then whatever amount you get, you add it to the price. That's how you work out inflation. Then remember, the price currently is costing 650. So it means that the previous price must be less than. And how do we do that? It's like we are finding the original. So what you have over each percentage times 100. What do I have? 650. Its percentage is 106.4. Just like the way you will be dividing by 115%. Are we together? So it's going to be 100 over 106.4 times 650. Where am I getting 106.4 from? I'm getting it from 100%, which is the original, and the inflation of 6.4. I added those two. That's how I got 106.4. All right. A box of Jungle Oats cost $17.99 and it has changed from $17.99 to $19.99. What was the inflation rate? Remember the formula, this one is the easiest. New minus old divided by old times 100. You substitute the values and then you press your answer. You are done with that. Let's talk a little bit about tariffs so that we can move on to the next one. So let's talk of the first one, tariffs. You are going to be asked questions on water tariff. I hope you still remember how to work them out. Water tariff, the first one from 0 to 6 is free. So from 7 to 12, you'll be saying 12 minus 6. Don't just subtract from your left, because when you do, sometimes it will be short. So rather say 12 minus the value at the top. Like here to be 30 minus 12, so that you will get the correct figures. All right, let's talk of transport tariffs then. In transport tariffs, they give us the size of our engine of the car, and then they give us whether we're using scheme A or scheme B. These ones, you may not fully understand all of them, but don't worry. When we talk of scheme A and scheme B, sometimes the person uses their own car to do government work, or sometimes government subsidizes the car. So when it's time for us to claim, we don't claim the same way or the same amount because we don't get the same benefit. So when you find such questions like this, you should be prepared to work them out. Like here, it says you must write a formula that can be used to calculate the cost for scheme B. If you're having a 2.3 liter, so 2.3 liter, you'll find it somewhere here from 2.15 up to 2.5 liters. So for scheme B, this is the price. But remember, it's not 467 rand because the amounts are in cents. So the formula, the cost will be amount claim is equal to the kilometers that you travel times the tariff. But let's put in place of the tariff here, it's going to be 467, divide everything by 100. I'm going to write it here. The cost is going to be the kilometers traveled times 467 divided by 100. Why are we dividing by 100? Because we want to find out the amount in rand. The examiner says we must write our amount in rand. That's why we do that. Now that we have our formula, which is what? Cost equals kilometers traveled times 467 over 100. Now somebody traveled 1,960 and went and claimed this much. So the examiner wants us to verify. Therefore, what do? We are going to say 1960 times 467 over 100. Then you press it. Let's press and see what we get. 1960 times 467 divided by 100, and we are going to get 9,153 and 20. 9,153 rand 20 cents. But how much did the person claim? 9,430. So did the person claim more or claim less? The person claimed a little bit more. That's how you answer those questions. Now, let's tackle the last part of finance, which is our income tax. On the income tax, remember that we only use what? Taxable income. Meaning, after we have deducted all allowable deductions, that's when we can start using the money left for our tax calculations. Whenever you talk of tax threshold, we use it to help to determine whether the person must pay tax or not. If the money you earn or taxable income you earn is less than your threshold, then you don't pay tax. Rebates are refunds that are according to the age of the taxpayer. MTC or medical credits are those that we get for people who have been paying for medical aid. So let us then look at the questions that we have here. The first one, a 55-year-old female deputy principal earns a monthly taxable income of 46,294 rand and 8 cents. On her birthday, she received an extra income equal to her 1 month taxable income. So as you read, remember, once they use taxable income, then you don't go and subtract anything. It means all what is allowable in terms of deductions have been done already. So yours is to use those values to start the calculation. But this time, they gave it for 1 month. So look at the question. Determine the deputy principal's annual. Annual means what? The whole year. So what do? We are going to work it out. Let's look at the second one. Determine which tax bracket, meaning whatever money you get from the annual taxable income, it is going to tell us which of these brackets we are going to be using. Then 1.3, verify with the following correction. It says the deputy principal claims the monthly tax deduction of 11,357.36 on her salary is correct. Verify showing all calculations. So we are going to look for the annual taxable income, look for the tax bracket, we substitute, subtract rebate according to the age until we get to the end. So let us see then. 1.4, give one advice to the deputy principal on how she can lower the amount of tax she has to pay. So now they want your opinion. All right, we'll discuss all of that. 1.5, provide one possible reason why the amount of tax a taxpayer has to pay is according to the level of their income. So let's start. The first one, they wanted us to find the annual. Can you see? On her birthday, she receives an extra income. So how many incomes is she receiving in the year? 13 of them. The one from January to December plus the bonus. So she has received how many? 13 payments. That's why you see me writing 13 there. Or you could have said 46,294 and 8 cents times 12. Then whatever answer you get plus the bonus, which is 46,294.08, it will still give you the same amount. Let's look at number 2. Because of this money that we got, 601,823, we can then find it somewhere here. It means this person belongs to bracket number 4. You write that for 2 marks. You are done. Then let's look at the third one. We have to show. So this money from bracket 4, you write all the sentence in front of bracket 4, which is this. Then you close the bracket, you minus the rebate. You can work it step by step, my learners. Don't cram everything together, okay? So when you work out all, you are going to subtract your rebate. It means it's going to be left with 136,288 and 29 per annum. But we are looking for the tax that was deducted for 1 year. So what do? We're dividing by 12. Are we together? So the amount that we got is what? 11,357 and 36. That is the same thing which is in the question. So what does that mean? It means the claim is correct. Now let's go to 1.4. They wanted you to find out how the deputy principal can reduce the amount of tax she pays. So she can just register for medical aid because she will get MTC back. That's one of them. Or she can hoping and save towards a retirement annuity. She will pay the tax later on, but in the end, from the beginning, it will reduce the tax that she has to pay. Then they wanted you to provide the reason why people pay tax as they earn. So the first reason is to ensure fairness. You can't be making somebody pay for more tax that they never get. So to ensure that those who earn more contribute greater share of the national coffers. Okay, so it means that the more you earn, the more you have to bring back. All right, let's summarize what we have done so far. We are saying that on paper 1, we are going to have finance, data, and probability. But in this revision, our focus was only on finance. So the next one that is following, we are going to be talking about what? Data handling and probability. So now that will be the next video which we're about to do, and I expect you to be there. Try to go through with me so that I can guide you towards the exam. I know you're going to do well. Just make a bit of time, watch these videos, pause, and let's see how it goes, so that in the end we'll be able to prepare you for the final. Thank you so much, my learners, for staying with me up to this point. I will see you in the next revision paper. Bye bye.